Hello, I'm write-in presidential candidate Chance White from the great state of Idaho. In this second segment of the series, I'm going to talk about immigration. The previous segment was about the military, and I'd like to reiterate that I'm very pro-military. I would offer my full support as their commander-in-chief should I be elected. I'd also like to reemphasize that my foreign policy is that I would not allow foreign aid, military advisors in nations that are Islamic, nations that support terrorism. No American money would be going there to support any action, whether it is the so-called NGOs, non-governmental organizations that support democracy. Because make no mistake, the Islamic distinction or definition of democracy is not the democracy that we speak of here in our own country. All right, in this segment, I'm going to talk about immigration. It's a very important issue. Today, we have an administration that would give amnesty to those millions, at least 12 million of them, who are living in our nation today. Now, some of you might think this is a good idea. Some of you may disagree. In either case, I'm compelled to talk about it because it's very important beyond the scope of what you might think. You see, hardly anyone talks about the legal immigrants in this nation. One could argue we are a nation of immigrants, and that's how we got started. And that's to a certain point, and they would be correct. We are a nation of immigrants. Those events that took place in our history that brings us to the present day, those events define who we are. Those events define what it is to be an American. The recognition that no one should be enslaved. The recognition that everyone has dignity and that certain inalienable rights should be allowed to those people living in this country. We had some brilliant minds back in those days. The framers of our Constitution, our founding fathers, the principles that they set forth, those immigrants, if you will. It's interesting to note that some of those so-called immigrants were second generation. In other words, they were born here in this country. Their fathers and their fathers before them, immigrants. But once you're born here, you're not considered an immigrant, are you? And yet we call it a land of immigrants. For the longest time, we referred to ourselves as a melting pot of immigrants from nations all over the world. Germans, French, Italian, Irish, Africans. We all make up this melting pot. But here's the thing. That melting pot meant an assimilation. In other words, once you came here, the desire to be an American was the overriding element. That element would be the catalyst, the incentive to adopt to American culture, which was unique to the American. We do things like 4th of July, celebrating our independence, and we talk about baseball and apple pie. It goes a little bit deeper than that, a lot deeper. And one of the things about being an American is that we love our freedom. We tolerate others, individuals, their concepts, their schools of thought that might differ from ours. But we recognize their right to speak about those differences. But we also recognize that there is a point to which we cannot go beyond. Boundaries that we set mentally and emotionally, issues that we are firm on, that we will not allow to be desecrated. Immigrants today, legal and illegal, it's a big issue. The legal ones, they've waited a long time to come here. A lot of them were under political persecution. A lot of them were just seeking a better way of life because the current government under which they lived was very oppressive. And they longed to live in a country that proclaimed freedom, that you could voice your opinion without fear of persecution, without fear of being dragged through the streets, without fear of being beaten with a stick, or even shot to death, or hung, or your house burned, or to watch a loved one being raped. They looked forward to coming to the land of the free, the home of the brave. And they waited patiently because they respected the rule of law in our nation. And when they got here, they were joyous. They loved the idea of becoming an American, and they assimilated into the American culture. Of course, when one comes from another country, they're bringing their country with them in the sense of their ancestral rituals, the knowledge of what was going on with their grandparents and their great-grandparents and so on, and they bring that knowledge with them. And they share it with others in their neighborhood. This is the food we eat. These are the holidays that we celebrate. And we find displays of this throughout our nation, Chinatown, Little Tokyo, and places like that. And that's all right. Everyone likes diversity to a certain point. Everyone likes different foods. Everyone likes to listen to different philosophies and different schools of thought, because we learn from them, don't we? We learn from different cultures. There's nothing to be afraid of because people look different or dress different. There's nothing to be feared just because they profess a school of thought that goes against your own. That's what America's about, isn't it? To seek the land of opportunity. Individualism is promoted through education and a desire to excel. And our country benefits from this. There are many innovative people who create things to make life more easy, more technologically advanced, and everybody benefits from this. I myself come from an ancestry that it's referred to as the Celtics, both on my mother and my father's side. On my mother, we have the Irish, and on my father, we have the Irish and the Scottish. Now, these people, they claim to be great in the areas of music and artwork, storytelling. Some of the people like Yeats or Brahms, very well known. James Joyce, a writer. Many, many people, artists, authors, come from the Celtic lands. That would be the United Kingdom, Ireland, Scotland, England. And it's an ancestry to be proud of, to be sure. And I admit, on certain occasions, you'll find me wearing a kilt, going to a Highlands game. There's nothing wrong with celebrating your ancestry. But when somebody asks me what I am, I say I am an American. I don't say I'm an Irish American. I don't say I'm a Scottish American. And I would prefer it, and let me go on record as saying this, if people did not say I'm an Italian American or a French American or a German American, or a black African American or a white African American, I'd like to hear the word American, for that's what we are. unity in that sense, when you start dividing us by making labels, it puts us in groups that are different. All you're doing is promoting a sense of discrimination, either by yourself or by others. You're setting yourself up for creating an air, an atmosphere of being different. And there's nothing wrong with being different, but when you flaunt it, you say, I'm ready to be a different group, to be recognized as a different group. I don't want to be recognized as an American. And that's wrong. I'm here to tell you today that's wrong. Immigration is fine to a certain point. Do not immigrate to my country and bring your country with you to the point where that's all you've done. You haven't assimilated. You haven't become part of our culture. You just brought yours with you and you're just taking up space. Those who came here illegally have a tendency to assimilate because that's what they want to do. They want to become American. It's not just a matter of being free, but they want to support the nation that gives them that freedom. That's how much they want to become American, and the display of this desire is obvious when they do it legally. Now, for those who come here illegally, this is what I think. It's a display of disrespect for the rule of law, the laws of my nation. And if you're an American, the laws of your nation, for our nation is the same, is it not? Illegal aliens crossing our borders. Now, this has been going on for some great length of time. It's nothing new. But here's an interesting note. John F. Kennedy, when he was president, he addressed this situation. And he made a statement that goes along the lines that those natives of different countries should not be given more than 10% of the quota allotted that year for immigration. He believed this because he wanted to prevent a distortion of population. A distortion of population that would lead to a discrimination of views, an overpowering sense of demands from a greater percentage from a country other than our own. Case in point today, did you know that 81% of our illegal immigrants are Hispanic, to include the Latinos? And they enjoy the benefits of more than half of our population. And they're illegal. Now, what do you think about that? Do you think that's all right? Do you think it's all right to come into our country, disrespect our laws, our rule of laws? Plant yourself here, have children, let your children go into our schools. Now, you're not paying any taxes at this point. You're not supporting our nation. You don't consider yourself American. You consider yourself from whatever foreign country you've come from. Let us say, in this particular example, it's Mexico. So you're a Mexican, and your kids start going to American schools. And this goes on for years while you are doing jobs from one point to another illegally, accepting cash. Can't declare yourself because you're here illegally. Nobody asks for documentation to prove your citizenship, so your children have been flourishing in our education system. Now, they're even in a university. They graduate. Somewhere along the line, they try to get a driver's license and they're denied. Why? Because they are not a citizen. They are children without a country, basically. They offer to serve in the uniform to protect the nation, to show that they love this country and they should become Americans and be recognized as Americans. Should the children suffer for the sins of their parents? It's a good question. Unfortunately, the answer is not an easy one. And to answer that question, set yourself up for being called a racist. I am not a racist. I have absolutely no problems with a person because of their skin color or their gender. If I'm elected as your president, I would secure our borders. I would put soldiers on those borders, both north and south, for the main purpose of doing what Homeland Security is supposed to do, and that is secure our borders. This would free up our Border Patrol agents to go inner city and find those who are illegal and remove them from our country and deport them back to the countries that they originated from. This may seem cruel and harsh. What do you do with someone who robs a bank? You arrest them. What do you do to someone who rapes someone or shoots someone? You arrest them. And you deliver justice as appropriate in accordance with the rule of law of the land. But we have a president who wants to give amnesty to over 12 million illegal people. 12 million who have broken our laws. 12 million who do not respect our laws, but in turn demand respect from us. Case in point, Arizona wanting to protect its borders, getting sued by the president and his current administration. Why? Because his philosophy is, well, we got 12 million plus illegals, and if we make them legal, that makes them citizens. And if they're citizens, that means they can vote. You also have the philosophy, well, there's more than 12 million of them. How can we arrest them all? One by one would be a response by the Border Patrol. That's their job. If we have soldiers on the wall, that frees up quite a lot of Border Patrol agents to do their job. We hear comments from police, like an LAPD. How are we expected to arrest people without depending on tips from those illegals? Why would we want to arrest the illegals when they help us catch criminals? So you have criminals catching criminals. That's great. That's just perfect. No. Do not repay evil with evil, and do not embellish a criminal by accepting his help to catch another criminal. I say we should do what is necessary. We should do what is right. There are those out there who would say I'm wrong and this is hate speech. No, far from it. I am an American, and I love my country, and I believe that we are in a clear and present danger, and far more greater than that, and it's coming from different directions, and immigration is just one direction. If we do not solve these issues now, if we keep putting them off, we'll wake up one day and we'll find out that we're not just divided in certain issues, certain schools of thought, but we will be at least two people, two cultures, and two languages. That's not America. That's not who we're supposed to be. These people come not to assimilate, but to bring their nation with them. And a lot of times, the parents that come here illegally and have babies that grow up and come to our universities eventually, getting degrees, those people, the parents, they never learn the language. They never learn the language because we enable them. We tell them it's okay to be here illegally. We don't want to hurt their feelings. We don't want to feel like we're the bad guy here. So we enable them. Not only do we allow them to stay here, but we help them along by giving them menus in their own language, options on the telephone to speak a different language. We're American. Our language is English. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a promoter of being bilingual or trilingual or quadlingual. You can learn as many languages as your heart's desires. There's nothing wrong with being intelligent. There's nothing wrong with being more educated. And there certainly is nothing wrong with speaking more than one language. But when it comes to this nation, when it comes to being an American, our Constitution is written in English for a reason. Our Declaration of Independence was written in English for a reason. If we don't stand united, at least in this respect, we will fall. And it's not very long in coming. We keep looking the other way. The majority, that silent majority, who doesn't stand up and raise their voices for whatever reason, I warn you, now is the time not to be silent, but let your voices be heard. It's gone on too long. It's not right. Not only do Americans suffer from this, but those immigrants who come here legally suffer. Because those spots that the illegal ones are taking up, they could be held by people who respect our laws, who are willing to respect all our laws, not just the ones about immigration. If you vote this coming election for business as usual, the Democrat or the Republican, you can expect business as usual. I offer something different. I offer honesty and integrity. I offer you an opportunity to make a difference, a real difference, to give America back to Americans, to let the rest of the nation know that we are that light, that shining light on the hill that other nations can learn from. What did it say? What does it say to other nations when we allow people to violate our laws so openly like that? You have to wait 5 years to become a citizen, to be allowed into this country. But these guys over here, they just came in yesterday. It was illegal, but it's okay. What does that say? What is the message there? It cheapens our citizenry. It cheapens what we stand for. It weakens us because we allow it. This is only one faucet, and the faucets are plentiful. A plethora of issues that our country faces that needs to be corrected. Immigration is just one of them. I welcome anyone from any nation, except for those who would undermine the philosophies and the teachings of our democracy. I welcome anyone except for those who would be subversive to our government and try to undermine and change it to something else that it's not. This is a republic. It's not something else. We are not communists, we're not socialists, and we have no desire to be subjugated to Sharia law. We're Americans. It's time for Americans to stand up. It's time for your voice to be heard. You can make a difference. There is a possibility here for you to regain that which we have lost, our identity as to who we stand for. Every system has its inherited weakness. Our inherited weakness is our freedom. We value it so much. We allow people to say anything and do anything under the banner of freedom of speech or freedom of religion. It's even gotten to the point that it's okay that we have 12 plus million people here illegally. That's okay because everybody has a right to find a place to live. Open borders, some of us would say. Think about this for a moment. Open borders, really? What would happen if the rest of the globe decided it wanted to move into our backyard because we've got open borders. Let's be realistic about this. We cannot sustain a population like that. Nor can we sustain the population that we have as it continues to grow. That growth is not about Americans, it's about those who are here illegally. We will lose our country. Not in the way that most of us feared in the past through nuclear weapons or disasters or fighting with bullets, bombs. No. Culturally, we will lose our identity unless those that are silent raise up their voices, let them be heard, and say we're not going to take this anymore. Amnesty? Yeah. I don't think so. If you're going to give amnesty to those who disrespect our laws, why are we putting anybody behind jail? Are we comparing apples to oranges here? No. Is one law greater than the other? Can we rob a bank, but we can't rob Fort Knox? Can we kill an adult male, but we can't kill a child? Apples and oranges? You either respect the laws or you don't. And our nation's leaders, my message to you, shame on you. Shame on you for promoting, breaking the laws, for disrespecting the rule of law of our nation. Shame on you if your underlying reasons include making illegal citizens legal so you can get votes for your Democratic Party. Shame on you and the progressives that promote such thinking. I'm Chance White, write-in candidate for presidency from the great state of Idaho. And if you hadn't guessed by now, my stance on immigration is this. I welcome immigrants from all nations. I don't care what the skin color is. I don't care what the gender is. I do care if you come here, whether or not you plan on assimilating into our culture, our ways of life. I do care if you think you're going to come here, bring your nation with you, and plant your own personal flag. This flag behind me should be your flag. When you want to demonstrate that you don't agree with some law that's being passed, or if you don't disagree or you don't agree with what a state's doing, like Arizona, trying to protect its borders, if you want to march peacefully, that's the flag you should be flying. Not the flag of some other nation. Certainly not the flag of Mexico, as we saw on TV and in our newspapers. Shame on you. Case in point, those who cross our borders and have no respect for our rule of law about immigration, why should we expect that they have any respect for any of our other laws? That's why the greater percentage in our federal prisons are illegal aliens. I'm not a racist. I'm a common man with common wants and common needs. And like any man, or at least most, I want to live in peace. Not just in my own nation, but with my fellow nations. Global peace. Let's end the killing, let's end the terrorism, let's end the wars. But first, let's clean up our own backyard. Let's end the disrespect for our laws. Thank you.